everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour, where photographers meet to connect, inspire, and create. If you'd like to join us live, you'll find the schedule for upcoming sessions on my website at lindanickell.com, as well as the links to previous sessions posted to the Happiness Hour YouTube channel. Every week, my guests share their photography tips and insight into their creative journeys, and they encourage us to look at a subject a little differently. Tonight's guest is Jonah Lange. Jonah is a storm and weather photographer based in Fort Collins, Colorado. His intense curiosity about storms has led him all over the United States to photograph and chase them. In his own words, he says that weather is a beautiful representation of the force and power of Mother Nature. And if you'll take a few minutes and explore his website, you'll see the vast collection of photographs that he's managed to make as Mother Nature tears across the plains and colors the sky with drama. In tonight's presentation, Nature's Fury, inside the world of photographing storms and extreme weather. Jonah will let us ride shotgun as he shares the passion, the challenges, and the breathtaking moments of capturing Mother Nature's raw power and emotion on camera. From thrilling and scary chases to that perfect shot, discover the dedication and artistry that goes into photographing the sky's most dramatic displays. If you're on Instagram, you can find Jonah at Jonah Lange _, and you can connect with him through his website, jonahlange.com. Welcome to the Happiness Hour, Jonah.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Glad to have you, sir. So one of the things I wasn't sure of, and I meant to go back and look on your website, I think you're also leading workshops. Is that right? Or am I telling you that you probably should be doing?
That's something that I've thought about for a while. So there's a lot of, like workshops would be a lot of fun. Storm workshops or like storm chasing workshops are a lot harder than like normal workshops because there's a lot more legal stuff that you have to go through. It's a lot more dangerous. And for me, I just like being out, not having to worry about that kind of stuff. Because I would never want to put someone in that kind of situation that sometimes you end up in just unknowingly. But yes, I would love to do that at some point. Probably a lot further down the road.
Okay, well, we'll watch for it. I'll work on you. He thinks I'm kidding, y'all. Okay, I tend to go into someone's website and I peruse all their pretty pictures, and then I try to drill down, and I'm looking at those about pages. And in those about pages, we all say the pretty stuff, but I might have glossed over your intro. So if I missed something, take the opportunity to let us, tell people, hey, this is what she missed, and I won't be offended at all. So if I didn't miss anything, hey, I get an A+. But if there's something you'd like to share that I didn't, this is your opportunity.
You pretty much got it all. I'm from, I guess we'll start here. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. I don't know if she mentioned that. I just moved to Fort Collins in August of this year, so I'm brand new to Fort Collins. I've been loving it so far. There's beautiful storms out here. We figured that out for a couple months. There's about a couple months where you got storms at the so our August, September timeframe before it got to be fall, which is also beautiful out here. And then it was winter and it's also beautiful out here. It's a common trend in the mountains. I've been taking pictures since I was probably like 5 years old, with like tiny little disposable cameras. I grew up actually like just outside of Madison. It's kind of like technically a suburb if Madison is big enough to have suburbs. We grew up basically on a farm, so I really enjoyed tractors. So I would always sit in the backyard and take pictures of the tractors. And that was, I guess, what kind of led me into photography. After that, my older brother actually joined the Navy and was a photographer in the Navy, which kind of led me even more down that path. At which point, I took one of the cameras that my parents had, and began taking pictures with it, and basically blossomed to where I am today. And then, as far as weather goes, I don't really know how I got into weather, to be completely honest with you. I used to be like deathly afraid of it. I used to sit in the basement anytime it was like even thundering because I was so scared. So I guess kind of that fear caused the curiosity aspect of my brain to kind of want to learn more about it. And ever since then, I've kind of like taught myself how to forecast weather and chase storms. So I've been doing that for, let's see, 6 years now, ever since I was 16 and able to drive. Even before that, if you count the times that I politely asked my dad to take me out chasing. Um, and then yeah, it's been great ever since. I've had a lot of fun doing it. I think that's basically about it.
That's good. I read most of those things in your bio, so I was familiar with it, and I'm nodding, going, I'm glad that you um, brought those into the conversation. So if anybody was doing math, he's a young man. He's in his early 20s, and when you see the photos that he's produced, um, you're going to go, wow. And I should have started a lot earlier. So I'm going to let you go ahead and get started because um, I feel like I cheated because I've seen a lot of your photos and I'm excited for other people to get a peek at the work you've been doing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna go right into it. So I can't get the bullets to come up separately, so we're just gonna have to hang in here with me. We're just gonna do. I just have like an 8 slide, uh, sort of like presentation, kind of going over chasing and like what it is, when it is, and where I go. So I started by introducing when chasing season is. So it basically runs. I mean, theoretically, you could chase all year if you wanted to. Like right now, you could chase down south, kind of like that Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Georgia kind of area. But the main chasing season that I like to go through is March through September. So that's when I start to pay a little bit more attention to weather models. Not that I don't pay attention to them now, because I like snow. I like getting snow. I like anything that has extreme weather with it. So, but for weather specific or storm specifically, I'm looking more towards the March, more so later in March, early April is kind of when it begins, and then it goes through September. So, kind of in that time frame is when I'm looking at models, kind of paying more attention to that kind of stuff. And then your prime chasing season is May and June, specifically like later in May, last 2-ish weeks in May, first couple weeks in June. My favorite times to chase by far. So where do I chase? Commonly known as Tornado Alley. My favorite place in Tornado Alley is kind of this western Kansas part right here. The reason why I like that area so much is because it's just flat as all get out, and it's wheat fields, which in the spring is green, as you can imagine. And the road network's really good. So I'll talk about that later, but like road network's really important, because you can get up into like specifically like Colorado, down into New Mexico, Wyoming, some parts of Nebraska, like the sand hills of northern Nebraska. Roads get really far and few between, which makes it a little bit harder to chase storms. More because you can get lost and or not lost. I guess you kind of get a little bit further away than you want to be, or a little bit closer than you want to be. So like in western Kansas, it's usually like a mile grid of roads that you can chase on. Tornado Alley, if any of you don't know, the reason why Tornado Alley is a thing is because you have this warm, moist air that comes up from the Gulf, meets this dry air from the deserts. From the deserts of Arizona and New Mexico. Creates your dry line with your moisture coming up and then your cold air coming down from Canada. So this isn't the greatest representation of Tornado Alley because there's no specific guidelines for Tornado Alley. I like to think of it as this area plus North and South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota, even Wisconsin, that kind of area. More so up north during the summer months, like June-ish. But you can definitely get chases up there in May. But that's your cold, cool, dry air coming down from Canada, kind of mixing in with all this stuff down here. And it's just very volatile place that has that stuff come together more often than most places on the earth. All right, so planning a chase. So like I was saying earlier, looking at weather models, when you're 7 days out, you're looking at like global forecast models, kind of just like outlining where you might be chasing, like a general area. When you get closer, you're looking at more of the localized models, the shorter term models. And you're looking for moisture. So like I was saying, comes up from the Gulf down here. You're looking for moisture, energy, which is CAPE. CAPE stands for capable, available, potential energy, and lift. So lift could be provided by a warm front, which is what WF is, a cold front, which is what CF is, a triple point, which is kind of like it's like a low you get like a low pressure system, and the cold front comes up and meets in your low pressure system where your warm front is as well. So it's a little bit easier for me to understand. I should have put a little graph right here that kind of like shows you where it is. It would be a lot easier for you to visualize. But that's basically what a triple point is. So it's where those three things meet. You get a lot of lift there, a lot of spin there, which can help produce tornadoes. Same with cold front and warm front. Warm front, I would say more so for tornadoes. You get a lot of spin on the warm fronts, or your dry lines. So dry lines are where this warm, dry air comes into place. So your warm, dry air comes out of the deserts out here. Usually it stays Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas area. You can get dry lines up in here. Kind of just depends on what the setup looks like, but most of your typical dry lines are going to be down in your Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas areas, and that's just basically the difference between super warm and dry air, and then your super warm, moist air out ahead of it. So basically, for that, you're just looking for the difference in dew points. Beyond that, it's basically a free for all. So you can get days where you're like ready to chase. You have an area that you want to go to, and then you wake up that morning and suddenly that area looks a lot more stable than it should have looked, or it looks a lot cloudier than it should have looked. There's precipitation in that area there shouldn't have been. So stuff changes really quickly. So like having that open schedule and flexibility is really important, especially for the day. Like having the whole day open is really nice, because I've had days where I thought I was going to be leaving at 11 or 12 in the afternoon, or 11 a.m., 12, like noon. And I ended up having to leave at 7, just because you have to drive further. It just changes so quick. Forecast changes really quick. So having that kind of stuff is really good. And then this is going to sound really, really kind of dumb, but having the dedication and passion to it, because you do have really long drives, overnight drives sometimes, which really suck. I call them kamikazes. So you drive, I mean, like you can end up chasing one day, or you're chasing one day in Texas, and you have to be in like South Dakota the next day. And the only way to do that is by driving overnight. So it sucks. And yeah, it sucks. But it's bound to happen every once in a while. And that's just the dedication that you have to it. There are people who will do it, and there are people who won't do it. And it's, yeah. There's long days. You're going to be up at 7 a.m. or earlier. Longer nights, you're up. For me, like shooting lightning at night is one of the best times to shoot lightning, because it's easier. And I'll talk about that later. It's way easier than shooting daytime lightning. But longer nights generally happen more times than not, unless you are chasing and everything falls apart right as the sun sets, which actually happens fairly often. But patience, need to have a lot of patience, because you can be sitting in one place for hours and hours and hours. You can see storms going off to your, whatever direction you're going. And you made a forecast for this one area and it's not going as planned. Or I guess it could be going as planned, but you're still sitting there and watching these storms up to your north going crazy, and you're sitting here A lot of people actually just leave your forecast area and drive up, and then just to see that your storms actually go in your forecast area, and do just what you were talking about, or just what you were thinking would happen, and all that kind of stuff, which really sucks. That's a terrible feeling. So that's why patience is key, especially with weather. You never know. It's like very, very volatile, very unpredictable, as you can imagine, and as I'm sure you've experienced. So yeah, sometimes you see something, sometimes you don't. So there are plenty of times I've gone out, driven, several hours. I mean, like one time that specifically comes to mind is one time I drove from Madison to North Dakota with one of my friends. Ended up not seeing anything. It was I want to say it was like a 10-hour drive. Didn't see anything. We drove all the way up to North Dakota, didn't see anything, drove all the way back, nothing. And that's obviously, it sucks. It feels like a waste of time, but you never know unless you go. You're never going to know if you're going to see anything unless you just do it. um, and I mean, like leading in the next thing, that's what keeps me coming back, is like those unique views that no one else gets to see. Like you're in the middle of nowhere. Usually, hopefully, you're in the middle of nowhere, not in the city. Um, Getting to see something that most people don't see every day. And then last thing is sometimes you get the opportunity to save or prevent death, save lives. Often you're the first one on the scene after tornadoes come through, which is it tugs at your heart. It's really tough to do that. Really tough to be in that position, be put in that position, but that is just something that happens when you chase storms that produce tornadoes. And you follow the tornadoes. Obviously, like hope that it hits nothing and it stays out in open fields, but most of the time that's not the case. So that's always nice. You have the opportunity to call in rotating wall clouds, tornadoes that just form, to the people that need to put out tornado warnings to save lives, stuff like that, which is kind of rewarding. Definitely has its ups and downs, that kind of stuff. So this is a picture from March 5th of 2022. This was very it was a crazy day in Iowa, southwestern Iowa. This actually happened near Winterset, Iowa, which is just southwest of Des Moines. So this was an EF4 tornado that came through, and we were like right behind the tornado. So this was right after we had come through, or right after the tornado had come through. We were one of the first people to see all this stuff. And this is where I want to say 4 people. I'm not this house specifically, but in this town, this is where 4 people died. Um, I mean, like it's just this is the reality of being a storm chaser. Sometimes this is what you see, and I mean, like you can see. Of course, I can't zoom in, but this is a dresser right here, and this is just it's his house. It's just completely gone, which is one of the hardest things to see as you're chasing. Obviously, it is, yeah, very tough to see. And then, yeah. All right, so changing the mood a little bit, we'll come up a little bit. What makes a perfect chase? So there's a lot of things that can make a chase really terrible. There are a lot of things that can make a chase really good. So for instance, this chase had 60 mile an hour storm motions, very hard to keep up with, which is why we never actually saw the tornado. We were just behind it. That's why we came into this right afterwards, because usually you want to be out in front of the tornadoes. Obviously, you don't want to be behind them. So slow storm motions that really help that. There's a specific storm this year that I can think of in New Mexico that we chased. It literally moved maybe like 2 miles an hour, which was awesome because you can sit on a road for hours and hours and hours. And we sat on this one road from 7 o'clock to like 11 or 12 o'clock. I mean, like we sat there, and I'll show you some pictures later if I remember to. I'm sure I'll remember to introduce that storm too. But That was one of the perfect storms that I've ever chased. Didn't move. It sat over canyon in northeastern New Mexico, which was really nice. Good road network. Like I was saying earlier, Western Kansas is a really good road network. Obviously, there's more places like that, but it's just like the first place that comes to mind. So having that like mile grid is really helpful, even if they are dirt roads, like they are in Kansas most of the time, um, which can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. Um, at least you have roads, I guess. Beautiful foregrounds. Um, I guess like Western Kansas also comes to mind because of the wheat fields. I'm just a sucker for beautiful wheat fields, rolling grass like that is uh is really nice to see. New Mexico, the canyons of New Mexico are really nice to see. If you guys have ever been out there, I mean, like northern Texas, the Texas Panhandle. I think someone lived in northern Texas. I think I heard that right. Canyons out there. I mean, like you'll just be driving and it's completely flat, and then it just drops off into a giant canyon, which is really cool. The road network out there sucks, but it is really pretty. Having few people on the storm, which is really hard to come by now because there's so many people that like to chase storms. But those roads, I mean, they'll get really clogged up with a bunch of people, and it gets really dangerous. And that's how people get hurt and die and get caught in the storms. So having few people on the storms, excuse me, or just staying a little bit further out from the storms is really nice because then you don't have to deal with all the people that are in there. Um, Structured supercells. So there's two different types of supercells. There's low precipitation supercells or LP supercells, and then there's high precipitation supercells or HP supercells. So as you can imagine, the high precipitation supercells have a lot of precipitation with them. Generally, a little bit harder to see that structure of the supercell. You can get it. I mean, like I'll show you a few pictures later. There are can get some really nice structure with it, but generally the low precipitation supercells are a little bit better because it moves all that precip out of the updrafts. Like you can see everything above the storm. You can see tornadoes, wall clouds, all that kind of stuff. Nothing is rain wrapped, nothing like that. And then obviously no injuries or damage. Kind of goes without saying, but that would definitely make a perfect chase. Photographing storms, all about positioning and perspective. So like sunlight, you can be on any different side of the storm, north, south, east, west, but you're going to have different sunlight anywhere you go. So generally, you don't want to be on the northern side of the storm just because that's where all the precip is. Usually, you want to be out in front of it if you can, depending on which way it's moving. But that sunlight can really play a role in what the storm or tornado looks like. If the sunlight is to your back, you can get really nice white, like visible cone tornadoes or structure for that matter. If it's in back of you, sometimes you can get a nice sunset. Sometimes you get the nice sunlight that comes through, makes the storm look orange, yellow, pink, all that kind of stuff. Or you can get very low visibility with sunlight coming through, just staring straight at the tornado makes it like dark gray or even black sometimes. I'll show you another picture of that as well, like right at sunset. Identifying storm motions. So knowing where and how fast your storm is moving is really important because you can get caught really easily. And that kind of leads into the next one is being able to decipher like what storm features are. So for anyone who doesn't know how to read or how to like identify different features of a supercell or just a storm in general, it's really hard and really dangerous to chase because you can lose service very easily, especially in the middle of nowhere, which means that you don't have a radar, which is a very important tool to use, but you have to be able to know how to identify that kind of stuff in case your radar goes out, in case your phone dies, in case something happens. You have to know where stuff is and be able to get yourself out. Tripods, it gets really windy. So especially when you're in front of the storms, depending on where, like what the conditions are that day, sometimes it doesn't get as windy, but you get your low level jet, which is basically like your jet that runs through the lowest level of the atmosphere. It's at 850 millibars. Your I mean, you can feel it on the ground basically. So you get your surface winds, inflow into the storms can be 60, 70 miles an hour, which is just crazy. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever experienced 60, 70 mile an hour winds just standing outside, but it's hard to keep the camera up. And I've experienced that. If I had my camera, I'd show you. It's full of mud because I will set it in the grass, and then half the time it just gets knocked over and falls into the mud. Um, Lightning triggers, for lightning during the day, more specifically. At night, it's a little bit easier because you can just do long exposures. During the day, it's a little bit harder to catch lightning. If you're somebody like me who does time lapses, can't really use a lightning trigger. So kind of just have to hope for the best. But if you're trying to catch lightning during the day, a lightning trigger is definitely going to help you. And then keeping your distance, not just for like, if you keep your distance, you can see more of the supercell, you can see more of the structure. It's going to look prettier, um, most of the time anyway. But also to stay away from the lightning on unexpected or deviant storm motions. So storms can, I mean, like, um, they change directions really quickly, and they can do unexpected things. Your circulation can get handed off to a further south, just developing part of the storm, and you won't even see it until there's a tornado to your left, and you're screwed because you can't move, you can't go anywhere. So it's always good to keep your distance, and lightning too. I mean, like I've been way too close to getting struck by lightning numerous times. One of my biggest fears is lightning because it's just so unpredictable and so fast. I mean, like you're not even gonna be able to move. You're not even gonna be able to do anything. So the safest place you can be for lightning, obviously, is your car. But still keeping your distance because you can see everything. You don't have to deal with lightning. You don't have to deal with the storm motions. You have more time to react, more time to take pictures. So that's all of that. I'm going to move into this catalog. Oops. All right, so we're going to start off kind of at the beginning of my photography storm chasing career. So this is the first tornado I ever saw. This was May 24th of 2019 in Kelowna, Iowa, which is kind of by Iowa City, which is east of Des Moines. So this is when the first touchdown. We were standing on this little road, watching touchdown. Very excited, obviously. I have I have a video of that day, but my hands are shaking so bad because I was so excited to see it that you can barely even tell that there's a tornado there. Oops. I guess we'll go like this. So this is a little bit later that day, or a little bit later in this tornado cycle. This is Kelowna right here. So it just missed Kelowna to the north, which was we were very thankful for. It grew to be a lot bigger, obviously, as you can see. You have your wall cloud and then your tornado right here. It was really cool. It was a really cool day. Cool to see this. The only thing I wish I would have captured was there's some beautiful structure above it because it was an LP supercell, low precipitation supercell. You can see everything above it, and you can see that you see these little lines out here. These are your rain curtains. So this is rain moving away from here, and then obviously you have nothing back here. So that's why this is also visible in here. And we are just south of this tornado, I believe, watching it go east. This is one of the first lightning strikes I ever captured. At night, because it's a lot easier, as I said, to capture lightning at night. You just set a long exposure. Works really well every single time. Only scary part is you're in the middle of a flat field trying to catch lightning, which is generally not something your parents would have told you to do. This is in 2019 as well. So then moving into 2020, we were down in Oklahoma. This is near like Sayre, I think is how you say it. Sayre, which is like eastern or western Oklahoma, excuse me. Um, Watched this supercell develop right over our heads. Actually dropped it. So this white lines that you can see in here, this is actually hail. You can see it being illuminated by the sun on the backside of it. And then you can kind of see the sunrise in here too, actually, which is really cool. But dropped hail on us. We had to drive to a gas station, try to save our windows, and then went back out and were treated with this beautiful rainbow on the backside. So this is back more so when we didn't really know what we were doing. Not as much. I mean, like we still knew what we were doing, but not as much as I would like to say I know now. But it was a lot of fun. We had a really good chase. Got to see a beautiful rainbow. Got some hail dents. Adds character to your car. Moving into this, I believe this was also 2020, but this is when I ruined my lens because I left it out in the rain for too long. Rain got into the lens and yeah, completely ruined it. But you can see this lightning bolt right here. So this one you can tell is pretty close. It's also a little bit out of focus, I believe, but you can tell that this lightning bolt is really close. And then this lightning bolt is just up on that hill right there. Scared me to death because there are what you can't see just off frame over here. Three giant windmills right there, which I cannot believe did not get struck, but felt very, very lucky to not be struck by that. Definitely gave me a lot more respect for lightning, just because it's so unpredictable and it doesn't really care who you are or what you are, and it'll just kill you. Moving into 2021, this was out in Kansas. We went early season. I think this was, or I guess not early season, but this was mid-May, I think May 13th or 14th, in Western Kansas. So this is more of a composite image. So I put, and I should have put the other lightning shots in here too, so you could have seen what I did with it. But this is something that I really like to do just because it kind of shows how electric some storms are. And I'll show you another picture. There's actually two more later on that I did with this as well. But you have this beautiful sunset. Kind of what I was saying with the light on the backside of the storm. You're in front of the storm. Sun is setting to the west, obviously. Putting light in here and making your beautiful colors. So you got your yellows, your oranges, your pinks, your reds, all that kind of good stuff. And then you have your blues up here, which is your precip from your storm getting lit up by the sun. And then obviously the lightning bolts on top. This was a day after that in eastern Colorado, just I would say probably 50 miles of where I live right now, actually. Out towards New Raymer, I believe it is. Beautiful little supercell. I think this would be more of an LP supercell as well, because you can kind of see everything above you, and then you have your precip that's kind of shunted over here. It was just a cool little storm out in eastern Colorado. Didn't really do anything too special. It was just fun to watch. Watched it for a couple hours as it roamed. This is like the Pawnee grasslands. If you guys have ever been out there, not much out there, but a lot of fun to chase out there. This is another picture of that. I don't really know what's going on here. Just a whole bunch of lightning congealing. But really cool. You have your, I mean, like here's your inflow up in here, being taken up, and then here's your updraft. This is the puffy part, excuse me, that you see up here. Being taken up into your storm, and here's your, like your main storm back over here. So generally, if you're ever chasing a storm, you want to be on the back side of it because you can see, unless you're looking for tornadoes, you can see your structure and everything like that, which is really cool to see. So then here is an example of this would be an HP storm. There's rain all over here, all over here. You can see the rain curtains down in here. This is just a whole mess of storms. But it was a really cool sunset. And it was a daytime bolt, which I thought was kind of cool and I wanted to include. So you have your sun setting over here, throwing your light into here. Obviously, you have your really pretty colors in here. And then you have your lightning bolt, which I have no idea how I captured, to be completely honest with you. Usually for daytime bolts, you want to do more of like a lower ISO. You still want to have some sort of light sensitivity in there. You want to open, um, or I'm sorry, you want to have a higher f-stop. You don't want to have it all the way to 22. I've noticed that it kind of, I don't know what it does with the lightning bolts, but it doesn't really capture them, or it doesn't capture them. It just doesn't work as well for whatever reason. But that's generally how you can capture daytime bolts is you turn up your f-stop, right, to, lowers your overall brightness of the image. Obviously you want to have a lower shutter speed if you can, towards like 5/10 of a second or something like that. Anywhere as low as you can, other than, or as low as you can, having your f-stop where it is and your ISO as low as it is. And then you can also use a like a neutral density filter. So I think while taking this image, I did have a neutral density filter on, which kind of helps you to open up your exposure a little bit more, to capture more bolts, hopefully. This is more of a look as you're coming up to a supercell. So this is more of a, I guess, classic supercell look. You have your inflow tail right here, which is where your moisture is getting sucked into the storm. It's basically what's feeding the storm right here. So you have all this stuff coming in. Here's your big updraft right here. And then your anvil up here. So there's not a whole ton you can see. Obviously, like your wall cloud would be down in here. Your precip all down in here. So the main area that you want to be looking at is down in here. So that's where obviously we're driving to, but I just thought it would be cool to get out and take a picture of the whole thing. Yeah, and then you have your anvil up here, as I said. So yeah, not super photogenic, but just more so of like a graphic type of thing. And then this is what it looks like underneath. So down in here, we went down here. I think I can zoom in. Yeah. Well, you can't tell. So we went down in here. Those power lines are right. I'm pointing as if you guys can see where I'm pointing. They're off over here. So your power lines are right here. So we went underneath the storm. This is called a whale's mouth. So your shelf cloud is up over here, which is basically like the leading front of your storm, for most storms anyway. And then your whale's mouth is the underneath of the shelf cloud, which looks really scary, but there's not really anything going on. A lot of turbulence. You can see a lot of spinning if you look at it in real time up there, which is really cool. It looks really cool in time lapses. And then your precip in here, being illuminated by the sun, which is why it's this really cool blue color. And then this is Western Kansas, which is why I love these wheat fields. I mean, like just flowing in the wind, beautiful green. And you can see how flat it is too. You can see for miles and miles and miles. So it's really nice to chase there. Moving into, this is more like later in 2021. And I have a few more pictures from this day as well. This is more of a classic shelf cloud. So you have your really vertical left edge here. And this actually did produce 3 tornadoes, I believe. So you have it's all lowered, right? You have your really vertical left edge here, and then you have your shelf cloud here, or your wall cloud. I'm sorry if I was saying shelf cloud. It's a wall cloud. You have your wraparound here, up here, which is kind of just your wind wrapping around into this, which is making it spin, and then your inflow right here. So kind of getting wrapped up into here, which is how you get this to spin so much to produce a tornado. So then you go into this, which is just a little bit closer, same shelf or wall cloud, excuse me. And then you can see the beginnings of a tornado right here. So I don't think, yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't include the pictures after that, but this did end up becoming a tornado, and in fact produced 2 more tornadoes after that, which were both very beautiful tornadoes. And then you can see your hail up here, which is illuminated teal with the sun, which looks really cool. This is more of a, or it is a shelf cloud. So you have, this was actually a derecho. For anyone who doesn't know, a derecho is kind of just like a line of storms that produces significant wind throughout a certain amount of or a certain distance. So it has to go a certain distance for it to be classified as derecho, while producing um, damaging winds. So we are at the top of, it's probably not the greatest idea, but we were at the top of a bluff in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So you can see La Crosse down here. And then the beautiful bluffs on either side. So there's bluffs over here, and then you have the Mississippi coming through over here somewhere. And then your shelf cloud coming through. So the way shelf cloud or the way more outflow dominant storms work is they have, you can see your little updraft right here. They have your wind or your warm moist air comes up and over this, and then it comes back down. And that's how you get your strong outflow winds back here. And they're really cold because they're cooled by the precip up in here, which is a really cool process. But that's how you get your shelf cloud. That's how you get your really strong winds down here. That's how it works, and this is how it looks, which is really pretty. This specific one was really purple. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the way my camera caught it. But yeah, it was a really cool day. I'm very thankful I did not get struck by lightning. We actually caught a few bolts that landed on the bluffs over here. I don't think I ever saw any that landed over here, thankfully. Because the only thing that was covering us was a little bit of a shelter back behind us. I mean, we're standing out on a point, but there is a shelter back behind us that we eventually had to take cover under with really heavy rain that came through. Moving on a little bit later in 2021, I think this was August. So this was a tornado near Sycamore, Illinois. This is actually, if you were to turn this camera 180 degrees, you would see the town, village, city, whatever you want to call it, of Sycamore, which is northeastern Illinois, kind of like probably an hour from Chicago-ish. So this tornado touched down, didn't cause any injuries, thankfully. It did destroy a few things, as you can see all the debris up in the air. So you have your classic funnel up here, and you don't see something that's really interesting is you don't see it all the way to the ground, but you do see the debris getting kicked up. So you don't technically need your condensation funnel to reach all the way to the ground to have a tornado on the ground. So this is technically a tornado because it is causing damage, and your circulation is on the ground, even though your funnel condensation funnel isn't all the way to the ground, which is kind of confusing because some people will not think that it's a tornado, even though it's causing damage on the ground, just because you just see your funnel up above. You don't see anything underneath. And I have more examples of this later, but this is a really good example of it up close too. I mean, this is right in this field right here. Yeah, so it destroyed a few barns. I think I have another one. Yep. So you can see more so it's in front of those trees, but behind those trees, just in that field right there. Destroyed a few barns back in there, moved that way pretty slowly, slow enough for us to chase behind it. It only destroyed barns. I don't even think it hit a house, which was really good to hear, obviously. No injuries or anything from that, which is always good. I think I saw somewhere between 5 and 10 tornadoes on this day, different tornadoes. It was like a mini localized outbreak in northeastern Illinois. So moving on, this is a supercell that was in South Dakota. This was near Mitchell, South Dakota, which is right along the interstate. I forget which one it is. I think it's 90 that runs through South Dakota. So with this one, this is where you would want to be to see a tornado. You don't see anything like that. There's no wall clouds or anything. This is a shelf cloud. Even though this is a little bit scarier, this is still a shelf cloud with your little inflow right in here coming up into the storm. It looks scary, but it's really harmless. I mean, like behind there, they did have, I think softball size hail or grapefruit size hail, one or the other. I know that they tagged, so they issue warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings now that go off. They alert your phone, as I'm sure some of you have experienced with significant hail or significant wind when it's life-threatening. So this was tagged with that life-threatening hail because it was so big. But really pretty storm nonetheless. And I think the next, yeah, this is just it a little bit closer. You have your shelf cloud, that single inflow tail right here, which is really nice. Really nice structure up in here. You have your teals, as you can kind of see up in here and back here, which is your hail, and your precip getting illuminated by the sun again. Yeah, just all around looks really pretty. Moving on, I think this is now we're in 2022, so this is the last one from 2021. Moving into 2022, this was hold on, no, I think I'm doing it wrong. Oh, this was March 5th of this is 2021. I'm sorry. Or no, this is 2022. So this was that picture that I shared before with the damaging tornado back when I was doing my presentation. This is from that storm. So this was early March, so you still have your birds migrating, which is just really cool. Obviously going around the storm, just really cool to see. But then below this is where that tornado is that you can't see, obviously, because it's shrouded in rain. That was more of a rain wrap tornado, more of an HP supercell that you couldn't really see anything through. Just really cool, really powerful, crisp, puffy updraft right here with your birds flying by. Fast forward to April, I believe, or no, yes, April. There were a few tornadoes this day. We didn't see any of them because we were a little bit further away, probably than we needed to be. We were more so accounting for error because on this day, the storms were moving 60, 70 miles an hour, which is why we couldn't catch that tornado. We were more so accounting for error on this day, thinking that storms were going to be moving when they actually ended up latching along a boundary. A boundary could be boundaries are a little bit harder to explain to somebody who doesn't know too much about weather, but basically it's just two air masses colliding, which causes a little bit more spin along those boundaries, which is why people like to chase along them. One of the more common ones is an outflow boundary, so you can have your line of storms from a night before that will die and it'll push out this big rush of air, and you can see it on like a satellite. Again, I should have included something like that so you guys could see it, but you can see it on a satellite and eventually it'll stop. And you can pick it up on like observations, like real-time observations that you can see with like mesonet weather stations that they have all across the country. But you can see that little outflow boundary, and that's where you typically want to go because there's just a lot more spin. You can also get storms that form along that outflow boundary. So this was along an outflow boundary, which helped it to slow down a little bit, a lot more than we were thinking it would. So you do have a tornado that's back in here. You see that really crisp right edge right here. There's air flowing back along here. And then your tornado is somewhere behind this rain back in here. But nonetheless, we did see some cool structure. You got your more of like a mothership look. I don't think I did. So you have your more of a mothership look to it with your striations around the side of it, which is really cool to see. And then you can see the little debris that's flying in. That's because the inflow to the storm was probably 67 miles an hour. So behind me, I'm actually taking cover behind a car so that I don't get pelted with, I mean, like, these are little like corn stalks and everything because this is early season in Iowa. So nothing's growing yet. You still have like your brown fields, and then you have all this stuff flying through the air. So it was a really cool storm. We did see the tornado very briefly, but nothing worth sharing. Just a really cool storm to see in general. And there are more pictures later that I don't have. They're further down in the my catalog that didn't, for some reason, don't go with the dates. They don't order correctly with the dates. So I'll show you those later. I'll refer back to this storm. Moving on, this is later in April in Kansas. I just thought this was a really cool picture. I like this picture a lot. Kind of have your sun is setting back in here, kind of see your sunrise coming down or coming through. You have your big updraft up in here. So this is your supercell right here, updraft in here. So all your warm, moist air is getting sucked up through here into your storm, which is back in here. With a nice little lightning bolt that I caught somehow right in there. Nothing too special about this picture. I just like it a lot. So yeah, this was the same day, a little bit later. So this storm actually almost ended up producing a tornado. I cannot believe it didn't produce a tornado actually, but it didn't nonetheless. It got caught by this storm. So this one is more outflow dominant. This one more inflow dominant. So inflow dominant storms are more of your supercells. They're more of your tornado producing storms. Outflow dominant, more of your shelf clouds, more of your linear storms. So you have your big shelf cloud right in here. There's some Mattis up here too. I'll kind of touch on my Mattis later. I think I have another picture in here somewhere. And then it's somehow, I really don't know how. Sometimes I catch some of these bolts, but caught a nice bolt outside of the actual shelf cloud itself. So kind of leads more into some daytime bolts. This was in New Mexico. Would have been very surprised if I didn't catch a bolt this day because I cannot believe how many bolts there were this day. I have a video on my phone somewhere of just like I did a Instagram live of how many just like facing out my window as we were driving to our next spot, just like how many bolts were dropping. But this was kind of near like Jal, New Mexico. If anyone knows where that is, it's southeastern New Mexico-ish area. A lot of the oil fields down there. Caught a nice bolt. You can see like all the nice branches and everything, which is really cool. And then you have, obviously, this is a very HP storm. You have all your precip back in here. This was the day we were looking for haboobs because it was so dry out there. Any outflow dominant storm would have kicked up a haboob, which is basically just like a dust storm, if anyone doesn't know what that is, or a sandstorm, for that matter. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Ended up finding this storm. Very pretty storm. You couldn't see much, but the colors are very pretty, and it was dropping a lot of bolts. This was from that storm that I was talking to earlier. This one. So this was that storm a little bit later in the day. So this is another composite image, obviously, of just how electric that storm was. So we sat here for probably about an hour. This is not an hour's worth of pictures, but we sat there for about an hour. This was probably over the course of 20 minutes or so, which is just crazy to see the amount of bolts that were coming down. And there weren't even that much up in the sky. So this is cloud to cloud lightning. This is cloud to ground lightning. So it was really cool to see. And obviously we were a decent distance away. You can see all these bolts landed a fair distance away from us. So really cool to see as the storm was moving the opposite direction of us. So it's really a good spot to be on the backside of it, watching the bolts on the backside. So then leading into this is this year, the beginning of this year, March 31st. So this year started off pretty crazy. We ended up with a high risk for severe weather in Iowa, which is the highest that you can get. That was tornado driven. So a lot of high risk you can get, or some high risk you can get like wind driven high risks. But this one was tornado driven, which is pretty rare. So you have obviously your big wedge tornadoes. So wedge tornadoes are just wider than they are tall, which are usually the most dangerous type. Sometimes they could be lower end on the EF scale. This one ended up being an EF4 tornado. So you can see obviously your tornado down here, and then you can see this huge updraft above, which was one of the craziest updrafts, if not the craziest updraft I've ever seen in my life. Just so crisp up here. And I think, no, that's not the one. I mean, just, it was absolutely insane to see how powerful this storm was. And just, I mean, like it made complete sense as to why there was a giant tornado underneath. Excuse me. So this was that same day, same storm, but a different tornado. So that tornado actually had not ended yet. I'll show you another picture in just a minute that will kind of allude to why I'm saying that. But this was the second tornado from that storm. And it formed very quickly. So I forgot to include, there's another picture before this where you can see just the tornado. This is technically called a collar cloud right here. It's just a cloud that wraps around. It signifies a really strong updraft, as you can see above you. But here's your wall cloud right here. And this tornado formed, I mean, it went from nothing in the storm to a tornado on the ground within like 30 seconds. Like it was insane. I've never seen anything form that fast. And it quickly grew from that to that. So you can see your collar cloud is fully filled in now. And then you have a stovepipe tornado down here. Not quite a wedge yet, but growing to be. And then you have your wall cloud up here. This tornado was also rated EF4, I think. I think they were both rated EF4. But regardless, this tornado ended up destroying. They both stayed mostly out in the fields. This one ended up destroying a barn and a house, I believe. It didn't kill anybody, which was really good. Really thankful for that because this day could have been a lot worse. I think there were a few tornadoes down in Arkansas that did damage and unfortunately killed a few people. So lucky that there weren't more deaths that happened with this. It just happened to miss all the big towns, which is really good. So then this is that tornado a little bit further, and then this is now a wedge. So you can see it's a little bit wider than it is tall now. And then you still have your collar cloud, and then you can see your this is up here is actually wrapping around the whole circulation, which is really cool. I mean, it's spinning like a top. It was really interesting to see. And then you still have your updraft way up here. You just can't see it. This is as we were moving. I was in the back seat. Don't worry, I wasn't the driver. Taking pictures as we're moving through Iowa. You just thought it was a cool picture with your no passing zone sign and then the farms in the foreground. You can kind of get a picture of where you are. So then this is why I was alluding to that the other tornado hadn't lifted yet. So this is your new tornado. This is this one right here. Just a little bit further off screen, but then this is your old tornado. So it's still on the ground. So technically you have two tornadoes on the ground at the same time, which doesn't happen very often. It's actually really rare to have. You have your first tornado right here, and then your second tornado right there, twin tornadoes. Yeah, one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my entire life, which is awesome to see. Moving on, this was 3 or 4 days later afterwards. Another giant supercell. You have your mothership look up here, which is really cool. And then you have a tornado right here, actually, that you can barely see, but you can see the dust getting kicked up right here. You can see your funnel, and that's another one that I was talking about where it's not the condensation funnel isn't all the way to the ground, but you have your debris getting kicked up. So this was in Illinois. It was also a really fun day. It was a moderate risk day, which is the 4 out of 5 on the intensity for severe weather. Glad that was nothing more than it could have been. It did go through a town, ended up destroying a lot of that town, but definitely could have been a lot worse. This is from that same day. A little bit later in that day, another composite image, as you can see, of the backside of the storm again with all the lightning bolts in here. Just really fun to see, really fun to photograph. Yeah. This was a little bit later in the year. I usually take a trip every single year. So end of May, beginning of June. So this was towards the beginning of my trip. This is a landspout tornado. So landspouts are usually a little bit weaker. Usually don't have as much of a pronounced look as a regular tornado. Kind of think of it as a water spout, if any of you know what or have seen a water spout before, just on land. So you can see your little cinnamon bun up here, and then your circulation right in here. So that's where it's coming from. And this next picture will show you kind of more of a better picture of where it is. So you can see your little circulation up here, and you can't really follow it all the way down, but you can see it right here and coming all the way down through here. So that's your circulation right there. This was actually really close to us. That road right there is about three quarters of a mile away. And then it passed just off to our east, which was really cool to see. A little bit later in the year, another lightning shot with the light in the background. Nothing too special about this image. But you have your blues up here getting kind of shine out by your light. That's why you get your blues up there. And then obviously you have your sunset colors out here. This is kind of a little bit later. As you can see the sunset a little bit further, you can see your sun right here just peeking through, giving your super, super intense and vibrant colors into here. It's really cool to see. A little bit later in the year, again, I think this was late May still. This is in New Mexico. This was that storm that I was talking about actually earlier. It was moving like 2 miles an hour. This is the beginnings of it. So we're in the canyons in northern New Mexico. This is the beginnings of it, as I said. Here's your updraft right here. Your whole anvil out here, which is really cool to see. And as you can see here, this is a little bit later in the day as we were still watching it from the same spot. This one was while we were driving, but this one was when we parked. You can see your Mamatis up in here, lightning through here, and then your bolt right here, which is really cool. And then you can see some structure starting to form. So that structure would eventually take on this shape. It looked really, really cool. Sitting north of Clovis for a while. Got your little lightning strike in here. Yeah, and then you can't really see besides from the time lapse of this, but up in here you can see this whole thing spinning. Then you can see your air getting sucked up into here. So this is your updraft right here. You can see in the time lapse, you can see your warm, moist air getting sucked up into the storm. Another kind of cool day in New Mexico. You have your little funnel cloud right here. This is more of an LP storm. You can see more of your structure, more of your wall cloud out here, everything in behind it. And then you have some really cool colors out here, which is really cool to see. And this is more of an LP storm. So you have a little farm in here. This is in the northern Texas Panhandle. Just like a classic LP supercell look. Everything out here. Yeah, I mean, like your updraft right here. This is where you have all your warm moist air getting up, and then you have really strong winds up here that shunt all your precip out over here. That's why you can see everything in here. That's why you can see your whole updraft and everything like that, which is really cool to see. And then this was a little bit, what's that?
Jonah, I want you to save me just a couple of minutes because I've got some questions that I want to get in before I lose some of these people in this room.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you want to, are you close to, how close are
Yeah, no, I have, sorry.
Jump to your finale because we could be looking at pictures for a long time. So I'm just going to say I'm super, super, super envious of, I think you called it the space, what'd you call it? The spaceship?
Mothership.
Motherships. Oh my
Yes.
God. That is just something that just, oh my God, I would love to see one.
They're so cool to see.
Yeah, showed a handful of photos that I'm like, I wish I could even just see it. Of course, I want photos of it in my catalog, but this stuff is amazing. So can I scoot in?
Thank you so much.
Let me scoot in with some questions because I don't want to.
Yeah, for sure.
That are hanging on because they have those. Do you want to maybe finish up with one or two of your favorites? And
sure, I'll go really quick.
Okay.
Quick. Jeez. I guess one of my favorites would have been that twin tornadoes. This was a really cool day. This was kind of that more like backlit tornado that I was talking about. Where you have like you can't really see anything in here, but your sun is setting back here and you have your really cool oranges. And then this is from that day as well. Just a really cool Mamatis. So Mamatis is like turbulence in the atmosphere. So this is really cool from that day. And I mean, like you progress through the sunset, which looks really cool. I guess I'll finish with this one. So this one was a really cool, more of like an LP supercell where you can kind of see everything. You can see a few rain curtains in here, but most of your rain's back over here. Yeah, it was a really, really cool and fun day. This is how it ended. Just died out really quick as the sun set. So I'll finish with those.
Yeah, it kind of just like petered out there. Okay, so you didn't say, and there's a lot of photographers, mostly we're all photographers. We're going to ask you, first of all, what camera and lens do you use? especially, well, in general? What are you using? What kind of,
So I
and
have I have two cameras that I trade off with because I
Mhm.
do a lot of time lapse, as I said.
Yeah.
So I have a Nikon D850 and I have a Nikon D800. I'm actually in the market to get a new camera right now, so I'll probably be switching that soon. It'll probably still be Nikon, but and then the lenses that I use are a Tamron 24 to 70, both f2.8, and then a Nikon 14 to 24.
Okay. Hey, let me get you to take down your screen and then
Yep.
okay, that made me a little excited because I'm Nikon and I have those lenses. So yay, I'm ready to go. Um, so can you talk about settings? Just maybe just some,
Yeah.
yeah, just to start out.
So I mean, like it's gonna change
Sure.
obviously depending on what you're shooting. I like to shoot as much as I can with a very slow shutter speed, which kind of helps you to have that chance at catching lightning. Because like I said, I don't do like lightning triggers or anything like that. I have time lapses going all the time. So I try to do slower shutter speeds to catch any lightning from anything. Um, as far as ISO goes, generally as low as I can to kind of keep any noise out of there. And then f-stop usually as low as I can as well, unless I need to bump it up to accommodate for the shutter speed.
You said something earlier, and we just want to clarify. Did you say that the north side of the storm is where all the precipitation is? So,
Generally, yes. So generally you want to be, and this is going to change based on any setup, but generally they're moving east to west or west to east. I'm sorry. So you want to be on the south side of that for the most part. Just a better place to be. That'll change based on what direction it's moving. Because I mean, like I can get very into the specifics of it, but there's like better places to be based on what direction it's moving specifically, stuff like that. But north side is generally not the best place to be.
okay. Um, Gail wants to know, do you know whether tornadoes are likely to touch down in the mountains or in hilly areas?
Generally not likely in the mountains. It does happen. Hilly areas don't really affect them as much because you're not getting that much um, that lower terrains like that don't really affect a storm as much. So it happens quite frequently in hills.
Okay. In your chasing, what's the most mileage you've put on your vehicle in one chase?
One chase, just like one day.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I'm sure it was over 1,000 miles. I don't know specifically what it was, but I'm sure it was over 1,000 miles.
Do you have of all the places that you do chase storms, is there one state or one area that you're almost, I don't want to say guaranteed because there's no guarantees of this, but you can consistently count on it's going to produce something interesting and cool.
Texas.
Yay! That was a
Texas is a
selfish
great place
plug
for
for
that.
Texas.
Yeah, Texas. I mean, like Texas records the most amount of tornadoes every single year. It's generally, I mean, it's helps that it's so big, but generally the better place to be anyway.
Yeah, that was a gratuitous plug for Texas. Um, so, Rose has a question. Let me read it because it's kind of a statement and then a question. With the cool composite of the 20 minutes of lightning strikes, she's curious if you believe the theory that there are many ground to cloud strikes, but the human eye can't detect that due to the speed.
Say that one more time. There
Sure.
are more
Yeah.
ground.
She's wondering if you believe the theory that there are many ground to cloud strikes, but the human eye can't detect that due to the speed.
There are. I've seen a few. It is very hard to see them unless you're like looking on a camera. It's a little bit easier to see them on a camera than it is like in person, just because it happens so quick. But generally, the ground to cloud strikes are a little bit. I don't know how to describe it. I can tell the difference between them. I actually, for the first time, caught one in Colorado when I moved out here a few months after I moved out here. But I don't think they happen too often. I could be wrong. I don't think they happen too often, especially with those powerful storms like that. It's more so with like taller like radio towers and stuff, or like tall features. So I know they happen out in like Arizona, like the monoliths out there. They happen off the monoliths a lot during monsoon season.
Um, you have you said that sometimes you're first on the scene after a tornado or a bad storm has gone through, and you're calling, or maybe you're calling into emergency lines. Are you calling the 911 number, or is there a special radio frequency that you guys are all sharing?
Generally, generally they already know what's happened. Generally, they're already coming. So most of the time, when you're first getting there, you're like going in to like see if you can help anybody or like find anybody. After that, if you see somebody that's like obviously very seriously injured, then you would probably call them and be like, "Hey, I have somebody here who's injured a lot worse than some of the other people are." But I mean, like some of those damage paths, I mean, if you've ever seen pictures of them, like it's hard to even identify where you are. So it's there's not much you can do. So I forget what radio it's called now, of course, off the top of my head, but there is a specific radio network that most chasers use. Um, Not for that kind of stuff, more so for like reporting storms and stuff like that. But other than that, no, I would just say 911 and like mostly you're just first there and trying to help as much as you can.
Those are just my curiosity questions.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This was your, can I tell everybody? This was
Yeah,
your first presentation ever, right?
probably
That's
why I went over a little bit.
no, I'm fine with
Don't
it.
have a
I
sense
mean,
of time.
no, I'm fine with it being over. And because um I can tell, I've sat through a lot of these presentations. You love what you're doing and you're
Oh yeah,
passionate and you're very knowledgeable. And for somebody that is not knowledgeable, but would love to like be kind of in the middle of a storm to take pictures, not for the, because I'm not passionate about storms. I find them fascinating. And I think that
mm-hmm.
is what was like, I don't know this guy. I'm wondering if he'll come and talk to our group. And when you said yes, I was like, oh my God, this guy said yes. Um, so when I mean, I did spend some time on your website. And then after you said yes, I spent a lot more time on your website because I find it fascinating. And I suspect that I may not have an opportunity to see these things that you've seen. And I love that we're getting your stories. And have you taken class? I'm just curious, have you taken any classes on weather? Or is this you're just learning it on the fly?
It's all self-taught.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that gives me hope. I'm sitting here. I thought you were taking some type of meteorologist
I
course.
thought about doing it. I was actually like enrolled to do it, and then last minute I decided not to because it's just not my desired path in life. So I don't. It's all self-taught.
Okay.
Taught
That
myself.
that that kind of makes it even cooler. Because that takes it down to you're doing it because that's your passion, and we all need to do more of that. Whatever that
I
passion is
agree.
to
All
do.
need to chase it.
Yep, yep. So, Jonah, thanks for coming and talking to our group and
Thank
sharing
you
your
for having me.
stories. Yeah, I just absolutely loved it. I haven't like gotten brave to say, "Hey, I want to ride with you sometime," but I'm getting there. But I won't put you on the spot because I don't do well with rejection. But at some point, I think our paths will cross at some point.
I
So
think so.
yeah, if you're coming through Texas,
Yeah,
you should hit me up for a free Mexican dinner or something.
yeah,
All
for sure.
right. Thanks for sharing. Thanks
Of
for
course.
and talking to a bunch of people you do not know, but there are a lot of nice comments in the chat in the text, and I will definitely share that with you because I want you to see it from our side of the the slides, the photos, because what you're doing is very. I don't think. there are very many people in this room that have been doing storm chasing like as a hobby or the genre of photography. I've gotten storms, but it was basically because I was in the right place with the right at the right time with people that were like, come on, because I would be doing that by myself.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jonah, thanks again. All right, next week, Christine Dewey will join us to present a closer look, finding beauty and joy in the world around you. Until next time, go out and create something beautiful. And I hope that we see you again soon.